Do you pour milk before cereal or cereal before milk?
Oh, okay. I put the cereal in the bowl and then I pour the milk on it.
Okay. So Madeline is in that phase of she wants to do everything by herself now. And so she got cereal the other day, poured the milk first, and then did the cereal. And I couldn't, how do you explain to a kid, that's not how you do it? It's like, how do you put your socks and shoes on? Do you go sock, shoe, shoe, or do you sock, shoe, shoe?
I had never considered this. I think I'm always a sock, shoe, shoe person.
Really? Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
sure.
Okay. You said sock, shoe, shoe. I thought you said sock, shoe there for a minute. I was like, oh, that's bold. But it's really the other thing, these are the brain teasers that I think about a lot for some reason. What are things that are scrambled other than eggs?
Like your brain or whatever. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, brain scramble. Okay,
Mhm.
What else?
Letters or words, word scramble. Like a word search. It's another name for word search, I think.
Okay.
Um,
You're coming up with a lot more answers than I did.
That's about all I can
Exactly.
think of.
And why is it called scrambled eggs? What's a scramble?
Because you're mixing it together. You know, the
Is
yolk
that what a
and
scramble is? This goes back to Tanner
so.
or someone said that they need to get me a thesaurus or a dictionary for Christmas, which probably is not a bad idea now. But anyway.
So, okay. So is it sacrilegious? Let's say you eat a bowl of cereal and you are not quite satisfied. And there's still milk in the bowl. Is it sacrilegious to put more cereal in?
No.
No. Okay.
You pour more in just enough to fill, to get rid of the milk.
See, I'm a Cocoa Puffs guy.
Oh, we're a Cocoa Puffs family too.
I used to be. I don't eat cereal very much anymore. But the milk gets
chocolatey
more and more and more the more you eat. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be fun to see how all this relates to Kansas later in the episode.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Welcome.
Welcome back to Ask a Kansan, where we are amplifying, uncovering, and connecting stories, Kansans, all over Kansas.
Yeah, we are glad to have you here today. We have a guest that has been, I'd say, a friend for several years. The president of Kansas Wesleyan University, Matt Thompson, joined us for an interview on Ask a Kansan today. And Matt is I would call him a visionary thinker, and he's always looking for ways to push Kansas Wesleyan into the future, and I think he's done a really good job.
And I've never really had a conversation with Matt. I've just always known that Matt exists
as an idea,
as kind of a, I don't know, kind of the cloud in the sky where all the ideas fall from. In a way, that's kind of how I've always pictured Matt. And so to sit down and kind of actually be able to listen to him today and kind of how his brain works was really fun and interesting for me.
Matt shaved before the interview. I thought my beard brother was coming on, and then he was clean shaven, which he's a great looking guy either way. So yeah, no,
I love that so much. So without any further ado, here is our conversation with Matt. Hello. How's it going?
How are you? Good. Welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I love the attire.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that the same one you wore years ago, or have you had several different, very purple and gold?
Well, when I was inaugurated, I had pants.
I was going to say, I thought there were pants that go with it.
It started as pants, and part of my job is to eat for the university, and so those pants no longer fit. So I had to go to a jacket that was a little more forgiving.
Okay.
So that's the reason for the jacket now.
Well, welcome to Ask a Kansan.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah. Would you introduce yourself for our audience, please?
Sure. I'm Matt Thompson. I'm the president and CEO of Kansas Wesleyan University.
Well, we like to say that there's two kinds of Kansans. There's Kansans that are Kansan because they were born here, and then there's Kansans by choice. And You fall into the latter,
I do.
believe. Yeah. Could you tell us kind of where you're from and
Sure.
give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. Very much a Southern experience. It's almost like growing up in South Georgia. I went off to college at Mercer University, small Baptist affiliated, not small anymore, it was when I was there, institution, and met my wife there. I had a phenomenal experience, was very involved in campus life, and realized I liked college work, and I stayed. I actually worked for my alma mater for 7 years, and then went and got my doctorate in higher ed administration from the University of Georgia, and then went back to Florida to be Dean of Students at Florida Southern College, a sister Methodist institution to Kansas Wesleyan. Then was the VP for advancement, and then I was nominated for this job, which brought me here about 12 and a half years ago.
Wow.
So that's the short version.
I wanted to ask, just because a lot of our conversation today will be about college. And so what stands out to you about your own college experience and your undergrad specifically?
Sure. It was the chance to find myself. I mean, very typical. It was a place that was supportive and challenging. My parents were, I always say, I'm surprised they didn't challenge me more in my choices. I ended up being a theater major. And they never once said why, or are you going to get a job, or well, I'm not paying for that. And so I did what I wanted to do. I didn't really think I'd ever work in theater, but I thought, this is my chance. I like to be creative. And I really wanted to be an architect, but I didn't have the gifts and talents for that. So theater was as close in set design. I wasn't an actor. I was construction.
I was about to ask. I was like, where does the architect and theater live together? But thank you
set
for
design,
clarifying.
set construction, lighting. That was my focus.
had no idea.
I kind of figured I'm not going to work in it, but I feel like I'm smart enough that I'll get a job. And so I'm going to major in what I want to major in. And that will fill me up and make me ready for life. And that's what I hope we do for our students, right? Is that you find what calls to you, what speaks to you, whether that becomes your vocation, your avocation, but learning and growing and stretching yourself is what's important for college years. And so that was the experience. I was very involved in campus. I was an RA. I was president of our programming board. This is 30 years ago, and probably had a budget of $250,000 as an undergraduate, which felt like a lot of money, and probably really was back then, to program campus events. And I loved doing that and being engaged in student life. And so that was what led me to think this is where I'll be. Now, to be honest, I really got a job because my wife, at the time, my girlfriend, was a year behind me, and I needed a reason to stay around in town. And so I got a job at the university, and then I find out that I was on the right path and I was supposed to be where I was.
Are there any insightful, deep lessons that can be learned from someone doing set design? I'm sure there are, but do you have any to offer?
Yeah. That's a fair question. Probably one I haven't thought about in a while.
Totally fine if you don't have an answer.
But I think it's about understanding literally the stage you're setting, right? What happens in this venue, how you've organized us. Even when you walk into spaces, what's the story they're telling you, whether intentionally or unintentionally? What do you feel? How do you react to it? Why do you get excited or tense? Are all things that I think come from good design, and in my experience, set design, and what's that do to move forward the narrative, right? And so how we set up a classroom, how we set up a gymnasium, right? All these things matter to create and become evocative. But even in everyday life, right? What does our home say about us and how we want ourselves or others to feel in that space?
I was going to ask if you've ever sent anyone for a board stretcher before.
Board stretcher. I'm not
Have you
familiar.
never done that? Okay, so maybe it was just an our generation thing.
yeah.
So I was also with SBN, but the joke that you'd play on the underclassmen is, hey, this board's not long enough. I need you to go find the board stretcher.
No, I guess I just had nicer colleagues.
So, and we would
Didn't
have,
tease me. No,
and we would have dads that would come in and help and literally draw them what a board stretcher looks like and hand it to them, and they'd have to go back in the back. But
I did not have that experience.
Yeah.
Like hunting for snipe or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, cow tipping. Yeah.
Yes.
Cow tipping, snipe hunting.
Kansas Wesleyan is proud to be the educational crossroads of North Central Kansas. As a partner of Ask a Kansan, we share the desire to build our communities and to discover what makes our region special. Learn more about the power of and at kwu.edu. So, the first time that you found your way out to Kansas for a visit, I assume that was the first time we've been to Kansas. Is that true?
Interestingly, I was selected as one of 8 finalists for this position. And so I flew to Kansas City and did an airport interview, which is very common. So all I saw was the conference room where we met. And then typically I would just have flown home that same day. But I was the last candidate, so I got to spend the night. And I went home and it's like, well, nothing comes to this. At least I've been to Kansas. Of course, that's how little I knew. I'd been to Missouri. And then got invited back for an on-campus as one of the 3 finalists. And that was my first time. And in fact, it was January. And it was warmer here that day than it was in Florida. And so my wife and I were like, oh, no big deal. We got this. Like totally not a problem. We came back about 4 weeks later when I had accepted the job to meet people more officially and to do some house hunting. And there was 12 inches of snow on the ground.
Yeah,
so they were like, oh,
that checks out.
a little bit of a bait and switch, but we
Thankfully,
love it here.
like 12 inches of snow isn't all that common.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe that was just a little bit of hazing as well. Yeah.
It could be. What's so funny in this is that all my daughter for Christmas that few months before wanted to see snow.
Oh.
So we brought her back in February. We came to look at houses and she was thrilled. I mean, people still talk about watching her run around in the snow and play in the snow, but she didn't actually move here till June. So she got back and was very disappointed. It was not always snowing here. So snow's always been a fun part of our Kansas experience.
Oh, man. What was it like just at the first year on campus for you?
It was just a lot of getting to know people, to know the community. And really, while we're all Americans, it's a different culture. And understanding Southerners, I would say, are generally very grandiose. We overstate everything. And there's such a subtleness to Midwesterners, again, in blanket statements, that really took a while to get used to because I was used to being in PR and marketing the institution, like telling every story. And here everybody's like, well, we don't want to tell anybody that. I'm like, no, we've got to tell that. Like, that's important. Like, we got to, if nothing else, we got to brag about our students. And so that was a piece that took a little time to help people go, it's okay. It's, we're supposed to do this. We're supposed to let other people know what's happening here, not hide our light.
You know, Kansas Wesleyan is a faith-based institution. So I'm just curious, what was your faith background when you came?
Sure. I was raised Episcopalian. I still claim I am Episcopalian. But it's interesting, if I can go on a side note of this. My wife has been doing extensive genealogy work for the last 10 months. And so she's traced both of our families back 8+ generations.
Oh, wow.
And through that have found connections both to the Methodists, the Catholic, primarily those 3 pieces. And so that's my background. My wife raised Catholic. We were married in a Catholic church. My daughter was baptized Catholic, but her first communion was in the Episcopal Church, and she attends a Methodist church now while she's at college. And so all 3 of those have been influential in shaping my faith journey. And I may be going more than you want, but in my own faith, I bring a number of the Catholic traditions in my own prayer life, the Hail Mary and Our Fathers and the Glory Bees, just because it's a part of my centering experience and how I think about my faith. And for me, what I've always loved about the Episcopal Church, and it's also true in the Catholic Church, is that long history and connection to people back hundreds and hundreds of years, and the fact that they have worshiped in very similar ways. I got a book not long ago, which was the history of the Episcopal prayer book that goes back 500, 600 years. And some of the prayers are exactly the same with just small refinement over time. And that just matters. It connects me and roots me in a very important way. But I'm very open and ecumenical. I believe, I don't know that I have enough audacity to say I've got it figured out, or that we should limit other people's beliefs. But I believe our role at the university is to help people explore their faith journey. Mine doesn't have to be yours, or vice versa. But I want you to feel comfortable to seek out what it is at the university.
Wow.
I think I may have lost the thread of your question. So feel free to recenter me at any
I think
point.
that was beautiful and well said. Yeah. For some of our listeners, I'm going to kind of transition into Kansas Wesleyan now a little bit more fully. All they may know about Kansas Wesleyan is your billboards and ads.
Right.
And a phrase that's probably familiar to them, but they may not know what it means, is the power of and.
Yes.
Could you describe kind of where that idea has its origins, I guess? And then I think it's maybe it's changed a little bit over time. And so, could you speak to that?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question right after the previous one, because I think at its root, it is about living and serving a God of abundance, right? Our world is additive, and what we bring into it, we don't have a limiting God. I will not say that's the origin of the idea for us at Kansas Wesleyan, but it's very much how I think about when we use that term. In fact, I talk a lot about that during baccalaureate. I have a whole talk about God's power of and. And I think that's important as a framing mechanism to not live in a fearful world, but to live in a world of abundance. And that's what that power of and gives us. And I believe God is a God of and. And so at Kansas Wesleyan, most of our students come because there's some experience in high school they want to continue, whether it be athletics or music or theater, debate, DECA. And so that's the and. It's the academic experience and the activity that you want. But it's deeper than that too. It's about being both a student and a community member. It's both volunteering and being a paid intern. It's about growing both intellectually and spiritually, right? It's all those additive pieces that I believe makes the students that leave us well prepared for the life they're going to live. So that really is what the power of and is. It's about thinking about how all of my life adds up to being who I'm called to be.
Which obviously that's what you hope for college students, is that they go in as an 18-year-old, usually right out of high school with big dreams, but not a real clear plan to get there.
Well, the other thing is some of these students are also coming from smaller schools where they got to do everything.
That's right.
So they don't know anything else. Or they're coming from large high schools and they've only ever got to do one thing. So they're learning to add on basically as in college. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for both types of students.
Agreed.
But also what happens with our students is that they get to find other things that become their ads, right? They may have come to play tuba, but they learn about podcasting or they learn about DECA or, right? So they keep adding these other things on, and that's what we should be about, right? In a lot of institutions, bigger schools, you kind of get into one spot. That's all you really can do. But here you can keep adding and trying things on, right? You don't have to keep everything you try on either is an important life lesson, right? Some things can be for a season or just for an experience, and then you move on, and that's okay.
I think it's obvious to many people in central Kansas, maybe not the corners of the state, but KW has been on a pretty impressive growth strategy under your leadership, from enrollment to new facilities. What do you see as the biggest drivers of that success?
Well, for me, all of our decisions come back to how do we serve students, and having the right tools and resources for them is an important part of that, whether that's facilities, new academic programs, new athletic programs, or the right scholarships. So that's what's driven our decisions, is how do we make sure our students have the resources they need. At the end of the day, that's my job as president, is to find resources for the people at the institution. I mean, I do other things, but that's really, if I can provide them the resources so they can do what they do to help students. I don't get to interact one-on-one with a lot of students every day. Other people do, but my job is to make sure they have the resources. And so we spent a lot of time telling that story and helping our friends and alumni and donors invest in that and to see the possibilities of what that means. And we've been very blessed with that.
This question just kind of came to me out of the clear blue. One of the things that we've talked about on the podcast is how Kansans have a tendency to look up. And we have a tendency to look at the horizon because, for one, we can see the horizon more than maybe in some states.
Sure.
And I've always been moved by the coyote statue that sits on campus. And one of the reasons it moves me is because it's a focal point for students, of course, as they're walking across campus, but also because it spends a lot of time looking up.
Yes.
And so, I guess, what is my question here? When you look up as a coyote and as a university president, what are things on the horizon for you that excite you, but also you're not sure how to deal with?
There's a lot to unpack in that second half. Let me just also say, though, there are two coyote statues on campus. The one you referenced is sort of in a howling up gaze. There's another one in front of the stadium that's looking out directly.
I forgot about the one in front of the stadium.
About that as well.
And I think actually, without intentionally, I think that's a really good metaphor for what we do at the institution, right? I have a trustee that talks about having bifocal vision, right? It's looking at what's here, but also looking out at the same time. And that's what leaders have to do. And I think, that's what coyotes literally have to do, because where's the prey, where are attackers, like where you have to look up and down to handle those things. In terms of what's out there, we've come through so much growth and so much construction and a lot of wonderful investment. We have taken sort of an internal step back to really assess and talk about what's next. And there's some big things within our strategic plan that are in development, but not quite ready for conversation. But if I look more broadly, what concerns me and what I think about is a lack of national commitment to higher education. We know the growth that happens for particularly young adults, that's who we serve, between 18 and 22, 23-year-old, is some of the most transformational time in their lives. And if folks quit thinking about that or quit investing or quit attending, that is not good for us as a nation. And so that concerns me. I don't fully know how to address that, but a lot of what we're doing at the institution is focused on how do we serve our community. And so when I think about what's kind of next, one of our big initiatives is our Community Resilience Hub. And that's around how do you create resilient communities in 30-mile radiuses. And that starts with food. So the first thing we've done is a new farm training program. We've partnered with the Rodale Institute. They are the founders of regenerative organic farming based in Pennsylvania. If you've ever read like a men's health magazine, that's Rodale Press, or historically they've sold it now, but that all started with the same family 3 generations ago, 75 years ago, saying about how do I create the best health and life for myself. So the Rodale sort of catchphrase is healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people. And we agree with that, but we take it one step further to say healthy communities, right? So when our soil is healthy, our food is healthy. When food is healthy, people are healthy. When people are healthy, communities are healthy. And so that's what we're focused on, is how do we do that for our community? I kind of got to the point that I couldn't figure out how to solve bigger issues, but I felt like we had something to say about local issues. And so that's where we're spending a good bit of our time and energy and focus now, is focused on local issues and how do we bring conversations forward? How do we even bring space forward that is safe to talk about things we don't agree about? So we've hosted multiple civil discourse training sessions to know that it's okay not to agree, but it's not okay to do it in aggressive ways. We have to be able to sit in a room. We also talk about within our work around food is that I want to focus on the 80% we do agree on. And so whatever kind of brought you to the table interested in healthy food is less important to me than the fact that you're at the table and want to be a part of those conversations and solutions. And I hope that can be a model for us across the institution that ripples out over a longer term to our students as well as to the community. And so that's been a big initiative that we've been really focused on, is what can we do? And so other permeations of that is how do we think about supporting law enforcement, right? So we've hosted a wellness retreat for the first time last year that was really well attended, because there's a lot of trauma involved in being a first responder. But the trauma doesn't stop when you go home, right? It's also trauma that takes home. There's large numbers of divorce and suicide and other problems. But if we want people to be good at policing, then we have to support them and what they do in the totality. And so that's another example of creating resilient communities, right? It's creating great law enforcement officers. It's creating great nurses and educators, other things that we do. But those are a couple of early examples of things that we're focused on as we look out to try to address bigger issues, is to say, we can't do everything, but we can do at least some things, and we can definitely do things in our neighborhood.
If our audience doesn't know, as an alum and as a member of the just community in Salina, one of the things I really appreciate about what you've done and the university has done in your tenure is the community partnerships that have been built and built upon, because I think that's really meaningful and has made a big difference here at Salina.
I agree. I would say I don't know the relationship was strong as I entered. It had been, but there had been some distancing, and that was important to me. But you sort of talk about what's great about Kansas. To me, what's great about Salina is how collaborative this community is. I mean, I've lived a number of places. I have never lived in a community that cared so much about collaboration. And I think for Kansas Wesleyan not to be a part of that would be problematic. It's good for us, but it's also good for people we partner with as well. These should be win-win experiences. But to see just what's happened, just to take downtown, for an example, how many people would come together to support that. I think a lot of other towns would pick fiefdoms and say, no, I want this or that, but it really was about being collaborative. And that's an amazing part. That's an asset to Salina, but to Kansas Wesleyan. I often say what's good for Kansas Wesleyan is good for Salina. What's good for Salina is good for Kansas Wesleyan. And it's a symbiotic relationship that's almost 140 years old. And those things have to be strong. And then we all benefit by them being that way.
We recently had a guest on who was a graduate of the Leadership Kansas program. And that was one of the things we've kind of learned about it through our work, making videos. And they're also trying to cross-pollinate ideas across the state. That seems like if we can translate what's happening in pockets across the state into statewide collaborations, I think that's such a huge win for everybody.
Absolutely.
And not just the positives. One of the things that he mentioned was, I think he said it was Greensburg. But he goes, they just laid everything out for us, the good, the bad, the ugly, what they were struggling with. Because if they can't be vulnerable, how are they ever going to get better?
Right. It's very true.
So that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, we don't want to
tidbits.
sugarcoat the things that we need to work on, but we also don't want to ignore them either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but vulnerability is hard, right?
Yeah.
You have to put a lot out there and be willing to hear the criticisms, to take the pain that comes back from living through vulnerabilities or things you've experienced, whether it's the level of trauma or not. And so I think it's really hard to do. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as a community is to create space to do that and to come together. And I think you create a better community when you do that.
Well said.
How have you helped students kind of attach their vulnerability to growth? Or is that something that you guys are trying to do?
Absolutely. I would say probably less me specifically.
Yeah.
I do teach a class every fall. It's our Wesleyan Experience class. It's an 8-week course. It's sort of extended orientation about preparing. And what I often say in class when we talk about certain topics is sort of challenge by choice. Be as vulnerable as you want to be. There's no wrong answer. But typically the more you put out, the more you get back from those experiences. And so just trying to create safe spaces in order to do that. But we do an activity called Cross the Line at the beginning of every academic year with our new students where, if this is true for you, you cross the line. So for example, I've lost a parent, you cross the line. I've thought about suicide. That takes a lot in the first 3 days of school to be willing to be that vulnerable.
Wow.
But it always happens and it always works. And I think what it helps, especially students, to realize is that they're not alone. They're not the only one that's gone through something. Or, thank God I didn't cross the line for that one. I can't imagine having dealt with that.
Yeah.
And talking about the idea that, my sack of rocks is my sack of rocks and yours looks worse to me and you probably think mine looks worse to you, but they're my sack of rocks and I know how to manage them. And that's okay, right? It's okay. Again, this additive, whether all your experiences have been good or not, they are your experiences. So how do you manage them and how do you leverage them to do what you want to do? But sometimes it's hard to overcome, right? And so how do you find the space? So I think we've done good things with chaplains at the university, with counseling services on campus, having lots of people who are in relationship with students because, you and I may not connect, but we might connect. And so I'm willing to speak to you and go deeper and explore things that maybe I haven't done yet. And I think that's what we do. One of the things I'm really proud of is every athletic team has a chaplain assigned to that. So all 25 teams have chaplains. Our music program, our theater program, nursing and education also have chaplains that are assigned to them. And so their job is not to coach or to lead whatever's happening. They're just there to walk alongside students because in any of those activities, you're going to have great moments and you're going to have tough moments. And it's okay to step back when you're having a tough moment and to process it with somebody who maybe it isn't the coach is the right person to do that. So giving people that experience to find out in life, I need people in my corner. I've told students a number of times in the last few weeks as we've been working on some stuff in our class, they say you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if those people are not positively contributing to you, you may not be in the right circle. So how do you frame yourself so that you find your circle group that lifts you up and challenges you to be your best version?
Yeah, that's a good. I'm trying to think.
There's a book that someone wrote about that of how.
Oh yeah, I didn't coin any of this.
I'm sure that because I've heard that before. And to expand a little bit on it, it's basically if you, and this is a very blanketed statement, if you're only surrounding yourself with super bad influences, you're, I don't know, without being too drastic, but if you're like just hanging out and drinking every night and you're not pushing yourself to be better, then you're not going to get better. But if you're hanging out with people who, hey, what are you reading? I would recommend this book, or like at least encouraging you to educate yourself more than just being stagnant, it goes a long way.
But it's also what you consume too, right?
Yeah, that's
so it's
true
not just
too.
people, it's your social media, it's the television programs you're watching. What is it doing to enhance you or to fill you up and not make you feel bleak or downtrodden, right?
On that note, I guess this is a question. I don't believe you have any social media accounts. Is that true?
I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not active on it.
Yeah. And I'd say that puts you in the minority of people in the country, probably. And I've always been curious why.
So I was early on when I was here. And a couple of things. One is I was taking pictures at events. Like I'm at a choir concert. Oh, look, and I'm like, I'm not at the concert. Like, I'm not there. I'm not present. And that's not what I wanted. And then, just these, nobody cares what food I'm eating. The sort of things that people were taking pictures of. But then actually during Lent, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, I decided I was going to take a break from it, that it wasn't giving me anything positive back. And so I stopped, and it's better for me. And I mean, at the end of the day, we have somebody who manages our social media at the institution. So there's something happening, somebody's seeing it. But it's not where I felt like I could contribute the most. And it wasn't doing anything for me. So I stepped away from it.
I aspire to do such things, but I always tend to fall back into using social media. And
but you're in a media field, so right, it is different.
Yeah.
I guess technically promotion of the institution is media and those things, but it's not where I feel like I have something to say and to do. I feel like I have other venues and ways to engage.
And I know as a student and as an alum, I've seen you show up, for athletics, for fine arts, for any event that's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that helps, not having that distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, part of my job, I think, is the ministry of presence.
Yeah.
I wore this partly because part of my job is to be the banner of the institution. Wherever I show up, I mean, there's a lot of research behind this. The university has shown up. And so by being at an event, whether I'm there for the whole thing or not, the fact that the president's come is given legitimacy and importance to the event. And with so many of our students being so active and involved in so many things, it's important they know that I'm paying attention. And so, plus I love going to stuff. I mean, I kind of went to college and never left. And so it's what I know. And so I love that world that we live in. But I also want them to know that I care and I'm paying attention to what they're doing and what it matters. I often tell them that students are representing themselves, their families, and the university, and that we're paying attention. And we hope that they're doing their best at all three of those every day. But from a faith standpoint, presence matters, right? To be present in a moment with somebody. And while I knew that, I had an experience, probably my second or third year here. It was Night with the Oats event. We were downtown at Tony's Pizza, and it was just lots of people and just lots of energy and noise. And we had sat down to dinner, and Jen had got up and walked away, and I was talking to somebody, and all of a sudden there's somebody else sitting in her seat. And it was the wife of an alum who had recently passed away. And she said, I just had to be here for him. And we had this moment, and she had to tell me, right? Just coming wasn't enough. She had to tell the university. And so when you think about it, alma mater, Latin being second mother, right? It really matters to people. Often when their most successes come is later in life when their parents are no longer alive. And so coming back and telling the story to the alma mater, to the place that made them, and that's part of the positional place I hold, is really important. To hear them and to validate them, to say you're doing good stuff, because that's what people want to hear, right? They want to know that what they're doing matters. And when you don't sometimes have a parent or somebody in your life that you would share that with, to get to come back to the place that formed you is important. And I could have missed that moment, right? I could have, and moved on, but we really had a very special moment that I think was very cathartic for her and was very touching for me that she would want to share that with me.
Want to spread your organization's message across Kansas? Consider becoming a sponsor. Ask a Kansan has a unique focus on Kansas and its people. By sponsoring our podcast, your organization can reach people from Canarado to Kansas City, Wichita to Washington, and all the great places in between. We have a variety of sponsorship packages available to fit your budget and needs. For more information, visit askakansan.com/sponsorships or call us at 785-571-9507.
There's few jobs around where someone has written a book about doing that job. And there's a former president of Kansas Wesleyan, Marshall Stanton, who recently wrote a book. So I guess a two-part question. Part one is, have you read his book yet?
I have. It's great. Okay. I encourage everyone to read it.
Yeah. And I guess second, what lessons did you draw from that book in how you lead?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Marshall Stanton. He and Janice have been wonderfully kind to Jennifer and to me since our arrival. And I would say I recognize that's hard, right? He spent 18 and a half years leading this institution, and it was the heart and soul of who he was. You read the book, and it's very clear. I wasn't surprised by that, but it comes out very clearly in the book. But it's hard to hand that off to the next person. And I'm actually several people beyond the next person. But they have been just phenomenally kind to me. But to read from his perspective, what he experienced was really interesting. To talk to, but sort of through his reading, what he experienced was interesting because it was very, I think, raw at times and very forthright. But the goods and the bads, which we all experience in the work that we do, especially leading an institution, especially for as long as he did, and took us really from a place of unsteadiness to real stability. And I tell him all the time, it's because of what he did, the university is thriving. And so I couldn't do what I was doing without him and his hard work and Dr. Kerstetter who followed him. And so I really applaud him for being willing to put out, talking about vulnerability, what those experiences were. And also I think he's just a paragon of great faith that is affirming and reassuring in this work.
You know, someone in your position is always a little bit uncomfortable talking about yourself because you do represent the university, like you said. So I appreciate, that you've already shared your faith journey and things like that about your personal experience. So what, if you could cast a vision for what you hope your legacy in Salina is when you do move away or you do move on in whatever form that takes, what would you hope that legacy is? And I'll let you answer the easy question, which is the Wesleyan one after.
Okay.
That. But I want to know you personally.
I'll start with kind of a random answer, which is my daughter is applying for something at her campus, and she really had to speak to who she is in that. So I've been working with her on that this weekend. And so that's what's top of mind is I hope when I leave here, my legacy is being a person who cared about campus and community. I cared about the development of all the people in our community and supporting and uplifting them, that I was fair, that I acted with integrity, that while I didn't make the decision everybody wanted, that they understood where I came from and why I made the decisions that I made, and that the place is better, right? Like this is all great, but if the place falls apart 2 years after I'm here, that's not good, right? So I hope I'm setting, as Marshall had done, the foundation for what comes for the next 50 and 100 years and leave it in a place that is continuing to be a place that draws and inspires people. But I also hope my legacy is pushing us beyond our campus boundaries. The work we're doing with Community Resilience Hub, I really think pushes us into conversations we haven't necessarily been a part of in the past. And I think our faculty and our staff have a lot to say. I think our students have lots that they want to contribute. And I believe we're opening up the doors to some new things that we haven't done. So I hope that the connection point between the success of the community and the university are more deeply tied, and that we're talking about some of those tough, vulnerable issues that we need to as a society, because Kansas Wesleyan was willing to step forward into those spaces to do that, and to recognize that success of the whole is more important than success of anything individually.
Well, thank you very much. I could honestly just keep asking you questions all day. And that's partially because I know you so well and partially because I'm an alum and care deeply about the institution. But thank you for coming and sharing today. Is there anything that's top of mind that you thought, I hope we get to talk about that today?
Yes, I came with one thing to make sure you knew. That Paul C. Fisher, the inventor of the space pen, is a graduate of Kansas Wesleyan.
What?
You have been listening to the podcast.
Continues.
Yeah, very good.
And of course, if we're going to stick on aeronautics, then Glenn Martin is also a graduate of Kansas Wesleyan attended. So lots of good connection points to space and air travel.
If you don't understand the connection, I am a deep fan of the space pen. I almost always have it in my pocket. I happen to know it fell out of my pocket today. But
which is why he always has to buy new ones. That's also in previous podcasts of how many
thing.
space pens he goes through.
We used to have some that had the Kansas Wesleyan engraved. I meant to look for one to bring you today. In fact,
I actually already have one.
Oh, do you? But that's
The
why it's
one he
engraved.
hasn't lost.
Yeah.
Is because of that. But you talk about kind of how those things move generationally. Stephanie Milam, who's a trustee and a graduate of Kansas Wesleyan, works at NASA and is the face of the Webb telescope launch and is doing remarkable work, and so proud of her, right? And she's not the only. We have 4 or 5 other alums also working at NASA. And so we need to keep being a place that prepares people to go out and push the boundaries of knowledge and to how we're going to serve and help the world.
Well, I guess a good way to end would be, where can people learn more about Kansas Wesleyan?
Well, the easiest thing is www.kdw.edu. Visit us at our website, but more importantly, come visit us on campus. People all the time say, I've driven past campus. We haven't seen campus. You got to get out and walk the campus. It's a beautiful, I'm biased, I know, but it's a beautiful campus. It really is kind of park-like setting to be in. So I encourage people to come by, but go to an athletic event, go to a concert, go to a play, come see what our students are doing. And that just means the world to them to have people there watching what they're doing. And I think you'll be enriched by doing it.
I had a vision as you were saying that of my first experience with Kansas Wesleyan was when I was a fourth grade student here in Salina, and I started playing the double bass. And my teacher at school asked my mom to get me in private lessons, and so she reached out to everybody she knew, and they all directed her to Eric Stein.
Yes.
And so my mom and I carried my bass. I carried the neck. She carried the end pen, and we would carry the bass, from our car, which we parked in front of Pioneer Hall, which is now you can't walk, you can't park there anymore. And we'd carry it into Sam's Hall of Fine Arts and upstairs where his office was. And I cannot tell you the difference in the institution from, I'm about to cry, from that day to now, from the, it was an empty place. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot happening. It hadn't been fixed up in years. And I'm just deeply proud to be a Coyote and to call that place as one of my own.
At some level, that's part of my job, right, is to make sure the value of your degree continues to get better, right? Because people don't ask you what the school was like when you were there. They ask you what it's like today, right? So the strength of the institution today is the strength of your degree. And so our job is to keep moving it forward so that, one, you're proud, and two, that it has meaning and consequence when you go out into the world and tell people that you're a graduate of Kansas Wesleyan. So we're proud to do that, and we appreciate your help in doing that as well.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Ask a Kansan is sponsored by Cohort Digital, your partner in media strategy and advertising placement. From social media, search, and streaming video to billboards, magazines, and broadcast TV, the experts at Cohort can help you navigate the ever-changing advertising landscape. With more than 75 years of combined experience, they'll build a custom media campaign to get your message seen in all the right places by your target audience. Learn more at cohort.digital. So, Cindy, we've used Cohort for several different projects for Feely, and it's been very successful and really pleased with the information. Yep. Lisa does a great job.
Yeah, both Feely and Ask a Kansan, we've used both. Basically, we give them the creative, and they really hone in on getting it seen by people. And the best part is you get the results in front of you. Mm-hmm. Like we got an email from Alyssa and her team yesterday, and it was like, hey, this is what's performing. This is what's not performing. These are the changes we suggest. And like, it's really like they take the work out of the data piece that some people don't really get. And it's great.
And I love, there's a lot of organizations in this space doing this kind of work that are just kind of checking a box. Yep. But that's not Cohort. They're always bringing their creativity to the task and surprising us in the ways that they find opportunity for our marketing dollars online.
Yep. So make sure to go to the website, cohort.digital. There's no .com. It's just cohort.digital, and learn more.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Matt Thompson. I had no idea I was going to cry, so that was a bit unexpected. But yeah, I thought it was good. And one of my goals in that interview was to get to the Matt underneath the university, because he doesn't, as we said in the interview, he doesn't talk a lot about himself. And to be honest with you, if I knew he had a Catholic and Episcopalian background, I certainly forgot it. Yeah,
as I mentioned earlier, like I've never had a conversation with him, so mine was just my whole part of that conversation. Granted, you took the lead on this, but I was just kind of absorbing the madness, and again how his ideas kind of form and where that comes from, and actually knowing like he has sort of that creative mindset from being in theater and being, but also wanting the structure portion of it. Really makes a lot more sense when you think of like how the university has grown in the past few years. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating.
So I'm currently in the pit for a show here in Salina at our community theater called Come From Away. And normally a pit orchestra in a theater is underneath the stage, basically. But on this one, we're on the back side of the stage. And from that perspective, we can see the back side of the set, right? It's in front of us. And what you don't realize when you're sitting in a theater is that they don't paint the backside of the set, and that like the backside of the set is
literally just 2x4s
yeah,
and
like
some,
it's
and some plywood.
it's only as structured as it needs to be, and I feel like to some extent that explains like why Matt's good at what he does, is because you have to be both good at spreading the vision and creating something on stage that attracts attention, but also like you have real confines within which you have to work, and you have to do both things well to be a good set builder or university president.
Very much so.
Yeah. Well, do you have something else?
I do have stuff for us today. I was kind of trying to figure out different elements today. We'll get to this Kansas history piece here in a minute. But with that, let me pull up my stuff for today. I've got a couple stories. So I don't know if this is a new segment, but just fun things that I've learned. Okay. Thanks to kansaspublicradio.org. I found these stories on there. Did you know that groups say that Lawrence has the best tasting water?
I think maybe I have heard that.
Yes. So,
sorry.
Yeah, there is a little explanation. And I'll post the link to the story so you guys can research it further. But Lawrence has the best tasting tap water in Kansas. At least that's what the Kansas section of the American Water Works Association and the Kansas Water Environment Association say. They've named the water that comes from Clinton Lake the best in the state. The Lawrence Journal World reports it's a huge achievement for the Lawrence Municipal Services and Operations Department, because in 2021, the city had to treat the water multiple times to get rid of, and I quote, unpleasant taste and odor caused by algae.
Ugh,
yeah.
Gross.
So the Clinton Lake Water Treatment Plant can process up to 25 million gallons of water each day.
In my experience, the best tasting water is the water I can't taste. So I'm a little...
But water does have a taste when you get down to it. Like, it's water when you drink it. So therefore, okay. I feel like it has a taste.
I am essentially nose blind. Like, I can't smell very well. And so maybe I don't have the best taste either.
Also from... the Kansas Public Radio. I was searching for the water story, and then I found this one too. The Kansas Museum of History. So they have been going through a huge renovation for the past few years, but they are going to reopen to the public November 22nd. So, but they have, let's see, a year-long renovation process. The renovation of the museum includes updating records and pictures and remodeling the lobby. The museum will also now be set up thematically instead of chronologically. So it'll be in different themes rather than chronological.
Is this the building that's on the west side of Topeka?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad there's been a lot of road construction right there too. So that'll be good for them.
It'll be good. So that led me down another rabbit hole of Kansas history. So this all comes from the Kansas Museum of History in Topeka off their Facebook page. So they've been doing these cool little segments in order to gear everyone up for the reopening. So next slide, please, Marlon. So I want you to name the artifact. And this is where Sydney shows you a picture, and you have to tell me what it is.
I live for this. This is good.
Next slide, please.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for those listening at home, it's kind of a triangular box. Has a little handle on it. It's a little worn. It's metal.
Okay. I think I have a guess.
Okay.
I think it's a shoe shiner's box.
You're very close. Very, very close. So this is a foot warmer. So that little drawer kind of in the side of it is where you put hot coal in, and you put it in the side and it keeps your feet warm. And here's a little info about it. So they use objects like this foot warmer to keep your feet warm. This item was used by Dr. Otto Clarence Fritz when he worked as a, quote, horse and buggy doctor. He used the warmer in both his buggy and later in his car while making house calls during winter months. It is covered in green wool carpet and features a drawer that held the coal.
Did he make it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. That's all I got out of it.
Well, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see like where his feet would be from where the carpet's worn out.
I was thinking like they kept their little brush and their shoe polish.
I mean, it's not a terrible idea. All right. Here's the next one. This one might be, some of these are easy and some of these are hard. So I want you, what are these structures called?
Dugouts.
Yeah, and I just realized it's on the picture.
Oh, well, joke's on me because I didn't even see that.
Okay, well, yes. So these are from Norton County. So dugouts served as a practical dwelling for early Kansas settlers when resources like timber were scarce. Because what a lot of people know is trees are not native really to the prairie. They had to plant them. So they had to make dugouts. So the structures were used as a temporary living quarters until improvements could be made. And these photos show dugouts in Norton County. Visitors came to learn more about the history of dugouts and other earthly structures when the gallery reopens. So,
can I tell you a brief story?
Yes.
Okay. So my family settled in the countryside near here in the late 1800s, like 1880s. And we have several different written kind of testimonies of different periods in time. And the first family that came, they came on the train. They arrived in Salina, and they didn't have any way to get to their stake, to the land that they had claimed. So they had to basically hire some random guy outside the train station with a wagon to drive them out to their stake with all their stuff. And then they were just there in the middle of a field with no plan. And it was October, November, winter was coming fast. And so before the sun even set, they look up, and on the horizon, there's smoke coming up over the hill. So they walk over the hill, and there's a dugout. So they go up to the dugout, and they knock on the door. And lo and behold, it's their neighbors from Sweden who moved here before them. And they spent the whole first winter in the same dugout with that family.
That's wild.
It wasn't until the next summer that they were able to build their own dugout and then eventually a house and move on.
Crazy.
So yeah. To some extent, I wouldn't be here if dugouts hadn't sheltered our family well.
Well, there you go. All right. We're next. Okay. We're back to name the artifact.
Okay. Sorry. Isn't that like the thing on a carousel you ride?
Correct. We've talked about the carousel before. Do you know what carousel?
The C.W. Parker?
It is C.W. Parker. Ding, 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 ding.
The one in Leavenworth?
They said this one is from Abilene.
Oh, okay.
But actually, it's kind of got a weird story. So it's highlighting Abilene, but I believe this horse is in their collection in Topeka.
Okay.
I think. Well, let me read there a little bit. So C.W. Parker built his first carousel in 1892 before starting his own carnival supply company a few years later. The C.W. Parker Amusement Company created a variety of devices and machines, including shooting galleries, Ferris wheels, and carousels. The company operated in Abilene until 1911, when it relocated to Leavenworth. Okay. That's the piece that we have never been able to...
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Because for those who are listening, I know C.W. Parker to be in Leavenworth. Gus knows it to be in Abilene, and we've never been able to figure out why it's in two places. So that is why
we need the historians.
Exactly.
Very good.
Okay. So relocated to Leavenworth after Parker's death in 1932. His son managed the company until the 1950s. A number of Parker's carousels still exist today, including one at the Dickinson County Heritage Center in Abilene. The 1901 carousel is the oldest known Parker carousel still in operation. It is listed in the National Register of Historical Places in 1987. And the Kansas Museum of History has 2 Parker carousel horses in its collection. So, and they will be in display in the new gallery.
If you haven't ridden the one in Abilene, it's worth a trip.
Yeah, and in Leavenworth. Yeah. I say you make a road trip out of it and just do both.
Both. I've never done the one in Leavenworth, so I can't speak to that.
And I've never done the one in Abilene.
The one in Abilene has like an old organ and
Yeah.
symbols and things that are like automated. Like
That's cool.
It's
And creepy.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's great.
All right, last one. Who is the family? And this one's hard. This is the one I thought was just interesting and weird. And I don't know, is a very acceptable
is there any hints
answer.
you can give me?
Mental health.
Oh, is this like Truman Capote? Like,
Nope.
no, not in. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
So these are the Menningers. So this story comes out of Topeka. So the Menningers, Menningers, were well-known leaders in 20th century psychiatry and mental health. Charles F. Menninger and his son Carl opened their first psychiatric clinic in 1919 before building a sanitarium in 1925 on the outskirts of Topeka. Eventually, a training school and children's facilities were developed as well. And then at one point, the Menningers Foundation employed more than 1,000 people between the two campuses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Suppose I haven't heard of it.
Well, in 2003, the clinic moved to Texas to affiliate itself with Baylor Medical College.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where it still continues to operate today. The State Archives has a large collection of materials relating to the Menninger Foundation, some of which will be on display at the new gallery.
Very cool.
There you
Very
go.
Cool. Yeah, I had no idea, first of all, that there's a sanatorium there. It makes sense. But also that it has some historical significance. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. I'll put all those links in the show notes, and make sure to check out the Kansas Museum of History as it reopens November 22nd.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you. That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, we come to the end of another episode of Ask a Kansan. Thank you for joining us today.
Make sure to check us out on all the social medias, and please share with at least one person. If you're an avid listener, I'm sure you're running out of people, but please keep on sharing.
Everyone matters.
Everyone matters.
That's for sure. And please comment, like, subscribe. If there's any stories you think we should be telling, reach out to us. We're always looking for what's next on the podcast. So
we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.